welcome to the Upshot, a podcast for dads who try. For dads who are thinking about their legacy and don't want to miss out on all that fatherhood has to offer. I'm Kyle. I'll be joined by my good friend Shane, and we're excited to jump into today's conversation.
Kyle, how are you doing?
Shane, great.
Yeah? How's your month?
The month's been good.
Yeah?
It was July, so July 4th.
Still July?
Still July. Still hot.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's hot.
It is bad.
Yeah.
But all things considered, we're doing really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said it was July 4th. It was July 4th. Did you have a story to share from July 4th?
That
You
was
just
the
like
month.
random.
I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking about
Data
July
points.
4th. Where you're like, how was the month? And I'm like, yeah, it's just July 4th.
Yeah, and then July 5th.
Yep, and that's how it works.
Yeah, those are how the days go.
Shut up, Shane. Okay. So, yeah, I was thinking about, like, my dad moment for the month. And, part of July 4th celebration here in America, Shane,
Yes.
in case you didn't know,
Uh-huh.
is we do fireworks. And so this was a cool experience for our kids. We went out to my mother-in-law's place out in the country, and, they have goats and baby goats, and they had baby foxes we got to see, and longhorns and all kinds of stuff. So the girls had fun. It was really, really hot. But they're riding around in the Ranger, checking on the animals, feeding them, having a good time. And then that evening, she lives across the street from the local high school. They have a big fireworks display in the high school, and so we could sit on the front porch, see it all happening. It was pretty cool. And so we pushed the girls all day, wore them out, made them stay up really, really late, had their first fireworks experience. That was pretty cool to like see the wonder and the magic for a few moments. And then everyone got really, really tired and went to bed, and so it was good. And the next day we paid for it,
Yes.
So they melted down and tried to go to lunch, and they didn't want to be there or eat anything, and all the tears and screaming and all that fun stuff. So it was cool.
Very cool. You're going to remember July 5th
experience.
more than you will July 4th.
Well, it was actually, the show was on July 3rd. So the July 4th was, quite the celebration of tears.
I'm going to cough right now, just so you know. Sorry, I had to get it out. It was driving me nuts. When you were talking about fireworks, it reminded me of a good dad moment from way back when. This has nothing to do with our content today, but it's another one of those moments that I'm still amazed that God allowed me to have children. We've got a little piece of property, which is perfect for fireworks, and I don't know if it was July 4th or New Year's Eve, but we had a bunch of people over, and we were shooting off fireworks. And, whether it's right or wrong, we allow our kids to, sometimes light their own fireworks. Often we've got this concrete pad or slab that's big. They do the fireworks right in the middle, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but Buck's son, Luke, Buck is our lead pastor at our church. So those boxes of fireworks that it's like it comes in a box, and it's got a bunch of like launchers, and it's got like one wick going into the box.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And on that package or that box, it is very clear which side is up, because this is important, right? Like there's arrows saying place on ground this way. So our friend Luke takes this box out to the middle of the concrete slab, and we had like 40 people around, all like in a circle, like on one side, sitting together, watching these kids take turns. So box is down, Luke lights the wick, goes into the box. We can't see the box because it's in the dark, right? But we know there's a box sitting on the concrete slab. Guess what position the box is in?
Now I'm thinking upside down.
It's 100% upside down. So the first one goes off, and what happens to this box?
Up into the air.
No. It tips over facing
Towards
us.
you?
Yes. And you could just sense the fear in all of us, and all I'm thinking is lawsuits.
Yeah.
But thankfully, it's another situation where no one got hurt at the Norcross farm. It was just one of those memories. But I'm telling you, I've never seen a group of people move as quickly as we all did in that very moment, all screaming Luke at the same time. But it was a memorable
Was he just
day.
so excited, you think, to light this firework that he just ran out there? And
These are those moments that as a dad, you're like, okay, I probably should have had some training before I allowed my kids to partake in fireworks or really think through what they're doing.
It reminds me of that video. There was a viral video. I'm sure I don't know how old it is, but it's like a doorbell camera or something, and similar situation. Everybody's lighting fireworks, and then some guy behind the car,
the whole box of fireworks
goes off, and I think the car catches on fire.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's how that stuff happens.
Praise God for doorbell cameras, though. So much content we've been given recently.
Great content.
Yeah, I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the topic we're talking about today?
Yeah, so today let's talk about what do you do when you lose your cool as a dad.
Yeah, that's a good topic.
That never happens to you, does
I
it?
don't know. I cannot relate, so you're gonna have to take this one, Kyle.
Okay.
I've got no stories, no examples, no experience with this category.
Yeah, I feel like some of this. Can anybody not relate to that? Like, really? Like, do you think? Yeah. Do you know of any parents who don't lose their cool?
No, not a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all lose our cool.
Yeah.
It's just, will we acknowledge that we lose our cool?
Will we admit to it?
Yeah, or will we try to justify it away? Like, it's okay that I just lost my cool.
Yeah.
So, but I was trying to think of, like, when are the situations that as a dad I lose my cool the most? Like, what is the scenario where it's optimal for me and my wife to lose our stuff simultaneously? And for some reason, it always happens when we're in the car, the crab spider story. Or it has to deal with cars. Today, my fourth son turned 16. So, you know.
Is he driving?
Well, you know what he's doing today? He's going to get his driver's license, which means I'm going to have 4 young male adult drivers on my insurance policy. I just want to cry just thinking about it. But so a lot of our anger moments happen either in a car or because of a car. Just the other day, I was thinking about inflation and all of the ways that my budget is currently not working. When I open my budget app, everything is red, everything. Like, there's nothing green in my app other than the categories that I haven't updated in a while. Right. Everything else is red.
So you can control that for a little bit. You're holding on to the green.
That's right. It's like, oh, look, there's a green category. And then
this should really be in that bucket, but I'm going to put it in the already existing red because I want to save the green.
Yeah, and the only reason why it's green is because the income is automated, but the expenses are manually taken out. That's why it's green. But I was thinking, sitting at our dining room table, how in the world can I decrease the costs of our insurance policy? Like, this is the thought that's going through my mind. I'm thinking about my young male drivers in my house. I'm thinking about creatively, like, do we raise our deductible? Do we take away collision? Like, what do we do? At this very moment, my third son walks into our house and says, hey, I just backed into grandma's car in our driveway. And I mean, talk about, like, opportunity to lose my cool. And I lost it, but I didn't lose it as bad as I have in the past.
Okay.
I think I lost it, but I was silent. Like, there was everything internally was going off, and I was there was nothing coming out of me. Like, my son's like, Dad? My wife's like, you probably need to step away because there's something going on inside of you, that's about to come out of you. And it's just, so it seems like when our kids are younger and they're in a car, they become raving lunatics and crazy things happen, which gives us opportunities to lose our cool. So when you think about situations where it's optimal to lose our cool, I think about parents in cars with kids. It happens every time.
We're in a season where both kids are still in car seats. And so,
oh my gosh.
Right now the triggers are, there was the triggers like, they're stuck in the car seat. So it's just losing their mind the whole time.
Or she's touching me.
Now it's like, I dropped my snack or I dropped my blanket or my toy or sometimes one of them is just like, we don't know why. She's just screaming. She's just losing her mind. Another thing about the cars is they're old enough to get in and out. They can't buckle or unbuckle, but they can get in and out on their own and choose to. Yeah. But that also means, like, they choose not to get out, so it's 102 degrees and they're playing like You Can't Catch Me in the car, you know, like hopping over seats and running around.
Love to watch this.
And you're like, what are you doing? You know, you don't want to watch it. It's not a pretty scene, but just watch me try to put the kids in the car or get them out at church one week. Yeah. You'll witness the game. There's that, but for me, losing my cool, one of the when I think about it, 9 times out of 10, it's in the bathtub at night going to bed. And so Jess and I, we have this system.
So you're in the bathtub?
No.
Right before you go to bed, that's when you lose your cool?
Nope, not my bath. Nope.
It's not Kyle bath time?
Nope, my bath time. You're such an idiot.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. We have a system where, like, whoever we get to choose. I say we. Sometimes we get to choose who cleans up after dinner, who takes the girls upstairs for bath, and get them ready to go to bed. And they're still at an age we're bathing them together. We probably I'm voting that we stop bathing them together, but it doesn't always happen that way. But every time there's a meltdown, somebody's losing their cool, and eventually I lose my cool for sure. Like this last. It's almost guaranteed, but Lucy, our youngest, the 2.5-year-old, will just look at me, and she will get the little bucket of water that we use to wash her hair out. She'll just stare, eye contact, fill the bucket up, reach over the bathtub, and just dump it right there on the floor.
Does she maintain eye contact the
whole
entire
time, man?
Wow.
The whole time.
What do you think is going in her? What is she thinking?
She wants to see me lose my cool.
Yeah.
She wants to see it. Dad? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And the whole time, she knows that's against the rules. And then it's like, I see it happening, and I'm telling her, not a good choice, not a good choice. It's bad. So I lose my cool. I yank her out of the tub. She loses her cool, and then it becomes contagious at that point. Sure. Then everybody wants to lose their cool.
It's like yawning.
Yeah. What this is kind of just off topic but funny, but using those same buckets, I'm washing the older daughter's hair. She hates getting water and soap in her eyes, and so it happens every time though, because she won't keep her head back. Yeah. Her reflex is to like put her head down, and then just makes it worse. And she recently did that, and then she looks at me and goes, "Daddy, why did you do that to me?" Yeah. And I'm like, it was an accident. I'm so sorry. She goes, "No, you made a bad choice." Or poor choice. "No, Daddy, you made a poor choice." Fantastic. And I'm like, okay. They're listening.
Yeah. Did you admit it?
To everything. No. I said, no, it wasn't a poor choice. It was an accident.
Yeah. I get it.
So
when we have these moments where we lose our cool, is it ever just one thing? Like, was it just your daughter making eye contact, pouring the water out of the bathtub that made you lose your cool? Is it just the fact that my son walked into our house and said, "Hey, I backed into Grandma's car"?
No.
What is?
Well, maybe. I mean, I'll say it this way. Like for my story, I mean, that sound in comparison to what you just talked about, like spilled water on the floor, not a big deal. If I was 100% just like focused and like on it, I don't think she would have looked at me and been like, "Hey, just watch this." Yeah. There was a strong likelihood I was doing something. I was trying to multitask. I was had my phone out. I was doing something else. I was, who knows what, playing music. There's a million things, not a million, but quite a few other things that were going through my head. And so I think it's because of those other things, the other distractions that I was distracted with or thinking about or wondering on, or maybe I was, because I wasn't solely focused on her, then 100%, like that's, so I think losing my cool was absolutely related to probably a lot of other things that happened.
For sure.
Yep.
I also think too, like, what is our mindset, or what what does our emotional tank look like right now? And when I say, is it already 99% full, I don't mean, is it 99% full of good emotions? Is it 99% full of stress, anxiety? Like, for example, when my son came in and said, hey, I backed into grandma's car, what was I thinking about? I felt at that very moment anxiety and stress about nothing that had to do with that exact thing. I was thinking about our financial well-being. Like, how am I going to pay the bills? And that was creating a lot of stress and anxiety. And all I needed was just one little push to go over the edge, right? But I was already standing on the edge. I was really close to the edge. And if I would have, like, if that happened 20 years ago, I would have, like, lost my stuff for sure. I would have, like, shamed my son. I would have, like, my temper. I have a temper, and it would come out. And it wouldn't have been because of my son. It would have been because of everything else that was already fueling that stress and anxiety that I was feeling about our finances. But yet I know that my son would have received it as he was the, look what I
his
just,
fault.
what I did. It's my fault. So paying attention to the something that's going on behind the something, I think, is very important.
You know, I don't know, in the last year, I've done a little bit of counseling work. And part of that has been around just understanding my emotions. And one of the easiest ones to, like, identify is anger, I think, because we lose our cool, and you see it. There's a physical reaction a lot of times to anger, whether that's, you know, white knuckles or steam out of the ears, whatever it is. There's a physical yelling. But one thing that, you know, my counselor was helping me identify was, like, you know, what is the root of that anger? And is it that somebody cut me off in traffic? Is it that my daughter poured water on the floor? Is whatever it, or what he talks about and helped me work through was, like, the reality is that anger is a product of, like, when we cannot achieve a goal that we have in place in our mind. So if we're trying to accomplish something, or we are trying to get somewhere, we are wanting to, you know, I don't want to be late, so somebody cut me off in traffic and that they're blocking me from achieving what I'm set out to achieve, or I'm trying to fix this financial problem with my insurance, and then now here's another obstacle that's going to actually drive me the other way. Like, understanding that is the root. So now I may still lose my cool, but I'm also thinking about, okay, well, I lost my cool. That's an indicator of what is the actual, you know, blocked goal or thing that I was trying to achieve, and like, is that real? Like, is that do I still want to achieve that thing, or, you know, why was I so stuck on that thing? And it's not my daughter's fault. It's the reality. Like, I can't. I was looking to get through bath time and bedtime without tears and smoothly because I'm excited to go spend time with my wife, or I'm excited to go do X, Y, Z, or I need to get to work, or whatever it is. So that to me is, I don't know if it helps me keep my cool as much, but it does help me identify quickly, you know, how to make sense of those, you know, unwanted emotions in that moment, and then move through that. Maybe productively.
That's good.
So I don't know where that fits in, but it's, to me, it's a helpful way to make sense of this idea of losing my cool.
It's almost like you can picture anger as a diagnostic tool.
Exactly.
It's just, how do you choose to use that diagnostic tool? Because I think anger is great at telling us there's something wrong.
Right.
But usually the way we respond to the diagnostic tool is we say there's something wrong outside of us. My wonderful daughter is pouring water out of the bathtub. Why? Like, that's the source of my anger. Or my blessed son just backed into my mother-in-law's car. But that's not the source of my anger. That's like, so it's usually our immediate reaction is there's something wrong outside of me.
Right.
But usually there's something wrong inside of me. And can I take the time to stop and reflect on, well, what is it?
Well, and the reality is too that she can't make me angry. I get
Are
angry.
You sure?
Yeah. As much as I want that to be true.
I'm pretty,
Right? As much as I want to be my 2-year-old's fault. to justify my anger.
Yeah.
The reality is my anger. I got angry because I wanted something else.
That's good.
And, I think that is something that I'm still wrestle with in life around when it comes to my emotions, these warnings about what's going on in me, these indicators of where I'm at. And it's like, okay, well, these are mine. I'm not a victim to my emotions and everybody else and what they do to me. Like, the reality is, unless you come over here and like punch me in the face, it's like, you can't make me angry. I get angry because I'm not getting what I need, or because I'm prevented from achieving what I'm trying to achieve.
Sure. I think there are two things that drive our anger. One of them is lack of control. Mm-hmm. Like, you have an outcome that you're trying to achieve, that you are wondering, can I control this outcome? I think the other one too is asking ourselves, what are we afraid of? I think fear and control are the two things that may trigger anger. Like, for myself, when I lose my temper, when I have lost my temper in the past, I've come to recognize that I'm trying to control someone, and I'm trying to do it through temper, because I don't know how else to try to control them. The other thing I've acknowledged, and I've talked about some of the wounds that I carry from my childhood. What am I afraid of? Am I afraid of abandonment? Am I afraid of being rejected? Am I afraid of looking stupid? Am I afraid of being disrespected? Am I afraid of the lost outcome that I'm desiring? A lot of times what's driving my anger is more a symptom of I'm afraid of something. Yeah. I'm afraid of I'm not going to be able to take care of my family's financial future.
Right.
Like, so and it's tricky, because once you've lost your stuff, we're not necessarily in an emotional place to process these questions, right? All we want to do is react, and it's difficult. So how do we watch the gauges? How do we pay attention before we lose our cool, where we're getting close to losing our cool, but we can take a step back and use this wonderful diagnostic tool and process some of the questions that say, what am I afraid of? What am I trying to achieve? Who am I trying to control? So what do you do, or what advice do you have for me, for our friend Luke over there, for another dad listening, that says, hey, how do I pay attention to when the emotional gauge is going from green to yellow to orange, and it's getting closer and closer to red? Yeah.
It's a great question. And I don't really know if I have like steps 1, 2, 3. I think for me, I'm learning for myself. It's that the more intentional and aware I am of where I am at as a person, just emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, like if I'm taking care of myself well, then that to me is like not just an awareness of where's the gauge at, but also the release valve for the gauges, like the pressure,
Sure.
Something that it may not even be the gauge, but my marriage is a helpful gauge. Like, relationships are helpful gauges for me to understand where I'm at emotionally with my stress or anxiety or anger. And I can often tell through the health of a relationship, the intimacy that I'm feeling with a close friend or with Jess or my children, that's pretty good indicator of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Too, and so, and there's times where Jess, it happened last night, actually. I'm clearly off. I'm a little bit off from some stress at work, and it's after dinner, and I'm preparing for this nighttime routine. I'm like, oh, okay, we got to go, got to go upstairs in the haunted bathtub, and like, it's just horrible. And then Jess is like, actually, like, I can tell you're not in a good place. How about, do you need to go for a run? And or do you need to go take 30 minutes to yourself? And it was just like jaw dropping. Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, that would be great. Thank you. And it's just time to reset, and then I can come back and help finish up. And like those, but healthy Kyle probably could have asked for that. Like, if I was in a good place, like I could have said, hey, emotionally, I need this right now. probably not okay to do every night at bath
Sure.
time. Like, but like in a moment, like I have to be okay asking for, hey, I need this emotionally, but also like because of where we're at in our marriage right now, she was just able to give that to me. Like, hey, I can see this. I can see you're feeling some stuff, and maybe you just need to go work on that for a minute.
Yeah.
Like release, like work on your gauges, release some pressure, and clear your head, whatever, move, sweat, get your blood going. So that was good for me. So that's a practical example that it's kind of reactive in a moment. But other than that, it's just what are the habits the disciplines that I'm forming for myself that allow me to stay on top of just being aware of my emotions and where I'm at, the pressure, the gauges. If I was a little more aware yesterday, I could have probably asked for help.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question fully, but.
Sure, but I think you said that was a reactive response, but honestly, I think you were in a pretty healthy place to receive feedback from your spouse.
Yeah.
Feedback that wasn't necessarily positive feedback, like, hey, Kyle, I'm your spouse and I see that there's something that's not quite right with you right now.
Right.
Usually in most situations, I'm going to react in that situation and not necessarily respond, right? Like I'm going to get defensive.
Yeah.
Or I might say, well, you're not in point out a flaw that I see in my spouse, but you actually were in a healthy enough place to like receive feedback and embrace the fact that you're right. I may not be in a very good place.
Right.
And you leverage that diagnostic tool that your wife was actually using. Hey, Kyle seems to be off. Do I trust my husband enough to actually share with him that I think he's off? And I think there was some really healthy moments that you had in the way that you didn't necessarily react to Jessica. You responded well. You received her feedback. So you went for a run.
It was hot.
Yeah, but if you ran long enough, you wouldn't have to give her a bath. Jessica could do it.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I helped with the end. Yeah,
good,
it was great.
Good. Clean up. Yeah, and I think...
what about you? How do you keep an eye on your gauges?
Well, I think you first have to acknowledge that anger isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yep.
Right? We talked about it being a diagnostic tool. It's silly, but I like to tell myself anger is just one letter away from danger. It's a good thing to tell your kids when they're small.
Did you make that up?
No, I don't make anything up, Kyle. I find all these things. But it's true, right?
It is. Hey.
And it's just like, hey, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
So, and I used to think, because I've talked about how I used to have a terrible temper.
Yeah.
Terrible. I've done like awful. And there were times when I thought, okay, I fixed my temper issue. And whenever I got to a posture that said, this is never going to happen again, is like right when it would happen again. And so I have to acknowledge the fact that, there's a part of me that I have to be careful about, and that anger will at times start to come up and start to come out of me. And it's just going to be a part of my life. It's not something that I'll ever fix, nor should I fix it. It's a diagnostic tool that I need to use and use well. So I think it's important to acknowledge it, that it's going to happen. So sometimes I feel like if my gauge, I can feel it moving towards the red, not coming up with this denial that like, oh, I'm fine.
Right.
No, acknowledging like, hey, my emotions are starting to increase.
Yep.
And then, so acknowledging it is one thing. I think it's important to anticipate it. And I think there are moments, like you talk about, bath time is a moment where I should anticipate.
Yeah, we have triggers.
Yes.
And
anticipate those triggers.
Yep.
Identify those triggers. Heck, even write those triggers down, right?
Yep.
Like, I think it's a good practice to say, here are the 10 things that are going to trigger my anger or where I might lose my stuff. And then plan for it.
Yep.
When you go up to bath time, maybe Kyle should go for a run or self-assess with
only
Jessica.
every week.
Jessica, how am I doing? It's bath time. Here we go.
Yep.
Is my head in the right spot? And then identify it.
Yep.
Am I healthy enough to say, hey, I just lost my stuff?
Yeah. And
not try to justify it. Oh, I lost my stuff because of Kyle, or I lost my stuff because of my son, or I'm not angry, I'm just frustrated. I think that's a statement that a lot of men, including myself, use too often. No, I am angry, and I was a little bit too angry. It wasn't just I was frustrated. So I think it's important to identify it, and then sometimes I think it's important to get help. So when I see that gauge, community is powerful. And do I have men in my life that at times I need to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I've wrestled with my emotions and it seems like these triggers are getting me more and more. Like, you want to go grab coffee and I need prayer, I need help, I need encouragement.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes we just need to get help.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I realized that in part of my journey, like growing up, I always associated anger. Like, I loved what you said, the anger is one letter away from danger. And I laugh about that. But the reality is, I think I always viewed anger as like severance to relationship. And then it was that it would always result in something really bad. Right. So somebody gets hurt, somebody like says something that's irreparable.
Yeah.
Like I think the narrative that created in me was if I am angry, bad things happen, and I can't. And then once those things happen, it's too late. Like, there's nothing on the other side. And so, I think for me, like from a pressure gauge, that just makes me bottle up anger. Like, I have to figure out healthy ways to let that anger, like, to be okay with I am angry, and how do I allow that to come out of me. Or how do I talk about that? How do I navigate feeling that in a healthy way in a relationship? So to drop the D off of, like, all anger is not dangerous, right? But instead it is, objectively, it's an emotion that tells me what's going on within me, you know? And so, it's such a learning experience for us, right? Like, and, Jess will tell you, if you were to talk to her right now, if she ever was a guest on this podcast talking about Kyle being angry, she would say, like, I waited a decade of marriage to get angry. It was children that like created that within me. It's like all of a sudden I have opinions and thoughts and feelings about things.
Yeah. It's like Lucy and Maggie lit the fuse.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's okay now for Jess to light the fuse, so it's like, it is what a journey, It's good. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. What advice do you have for the dad that's listening that keeps losing his cool? To a point that it's not like, hey, I'm getting angry, because we talked about, that's a good diagnostic tool. What are you doing with your anger? How far are you allowing that anger to go? But let's say
you're just living in a state of...
Yeah, and you're explosive time and time again, and you tell yourself, hey, I'm going to try harder next time, or I'm not going to lose my stuff with my kids again, but yet you come home from work the next day, you had a really hard day, you're really tired, and you just about lost it again, or you lost it again. Like, what do you say to the dad that continues to wrestle with this over and over and over again?
Oh, well, I think that you already hinted to it. Like, I think the first step is you got to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And just say that. I'm living in this repeated pattern of I come home, I lose my cool.
Yeah.
And that's a daily or weekly the occurrence. I can't break that on my own. Whatever I'm doing is not changing.
Yeah.
And
that's a key first step. I mean, I think a lot of, like, it's hard for us as men to acknowledge I can't do something on my own. And I try to think about, like, why is it so hard for us to acknowledge that?
And, well, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that only contributes to the cycle.
Sure.
That's probably a reason why you keep losing your cool every day after day, is because why can't I figure this out? Yeah. And now I'm just as angry at myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, and that's
the
when
guilt and the shame
gets a hold of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the first step would be, who can you talk to?
Yeah.
Do you have somebody you can talk to? And just lay it out there. This is the pattern.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I think it also, if you are hesitant to talk to someone, I think you have to ask yourself the question, am I letting my anger define who I am? Because I think when we say we need help, we're acknowledging that we have a problem, but that problem doesn't define who we are.
Right.
Right? And I think sure, it takes humility to ask for help, but I think as men, we have to recognize it takes courage. Like, I try to have the mindset of, yes, I need humility, but it takes courage. And I want to show my kids that, or my boys especially, like, hey, I want you to grow up to be courageous.
Right.
But sometimes being courageous means asking for help.
Yep. And that feels like a huge step.
Yeah.
But I think if you have a little bit of courage to ask for the help, then your courage grows.
100%.
Right? Courage really will follow your action.
Yeah.
To then, okay, well, now I've got to change some patterns or some behaviors here with the help of a friend.
Yeah.
I think I can do that, though.
Yeah.
Because I reached out first.
Yeah. And sometimes it may take, we need friends around us to encourage us, support us, pray for us, ask good questions, not flinch at us when crazy things are going on in our lives.
Yep.
But I think sometimes some of the challenges we face, especially with anger and losing our stuff, can be above our friend's pay grade.
Yep.
And sometimes we do need to approach a counselor and have the courage to go see a counselor. Yep. I hope you don't mind sharing, like when my wife and I, our first 10 years of our marriage, we came into our marriage with some brokenness. I know it's hard to believe. And the way that we handled conflict, my wife was the kind of person that would, when we were disconnected, she would need space to process her emotions. I had this fear of abandonment growing up, that when my wife tried to separate so she could process her emotions in a healthy way so that she could come back and have a conversation with me, there was something inside of me, this fear. Yeah. But I never could identify it, that I'm afraid I'm going to lose my wife. Yep. And so therefore we need to fix this now. And so there's the control piece. Yep. So I'm afraid I'm going to lose my wife, and I need to control the outcome of the situation. So we have to fix this issue now. So I would chase her down, and I would not let her leave to process. And neither one of us really knew the root cause of some of the things that were driving our decisions, because it was happening subconsciously. And it wasn't until I sat in front of a counselor, and the counselor kind of helped me understand. Explored that. Yep. Hey, is there this world where you might be afraid because you've been abandoned before that you're going to be abandoned again? And it was like this moment of like, yes. And recognizing that it's okay that my wife needs some space. Mm-hmm. And it radically changed the way that we approached one another in conflict. But I never would have understood that had I not sat across from somebody that was trained to help me diagnose help you through that reactions that I was experiencing, and when that anger was coming out when I was trying to control a situation, when I was afraid of something. Yep. So sometimes we need to get help. Yep. From a friend, from a counselor. Yep. Yep. Somebody. So what? That's good. Any moment from today's podcast? Anything stand out to you? Yeah, give me a second. Do you have one? I mean, honestly, I really was thankful that you talked about how you responded to your wife. And I'm challenged to recognize that sometimes our spouses can recognize where our gauges are better than we can. Yeah. And be slow to speak and quick to listen when my wife might point that out. Yeah. And even when my wife offers advice, she didn't just say, hey, I think there's something wrong. Maybe you should go for a run. And can I receive that well? So you challenged me to just pay attention to the way I allow my wife to speak into my emotions. Well, that's good. I think one that stands out to me is the fear, how much is fear an underlying cause of my anger? And I've got to explore that a little bit. So it's good. So thank you for that homework that I need to go do. You're welcome. And remember, anger is just one letter away from danger. Is that a mantra in your No. I want it I'm it's fun that we do these podcasts, and sometimes we go back and reflect on some of the things that we've utilized or thought about on these topics. And so it's a reminder for me that I need to remember, kids. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to go home today and say, remember, kids. Hey, Nathan, it's your birthday. One piece of advice. Remember, anger is one letter away from danger. You got to say it just like that. That's right. All right. All right. Cool. Guys, thanks for joining us today. And we really appreciate you tuning into The Upshot. Hopefully it's been relevant and helpful. And we can't wait to have a conversation with you next time. Bye. Dads, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Upshot. Wherever you are, Kyle and I hope you got something out of it. Know that you're not alone in this journey called fatherhood. And we want to encourage you to hit that like button, subscribe button, or whatever button is in front of you with the technology you're using. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time on The Upshot.
Oh.
That's all I'm going to say about that. But that wasn't it. There was another one.
That's all for today, folks. I don't know what it was.
That's all for now? I don't remember.
We're done.
We got to work on our ending.